Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of the Justice Preview. I'm Aaron Heckman, better known as Pre, the General Manager of the Washington Justice, and today we're going to cover 5 topics close to the hearts of Washington Justice fans. Every other week we'll be adding an episode detailing topics from recent news to strategy breakdowns to behind-the-scenes stories about the Justice. Let's dive into our first segment, Buff or Nerf. Blizzard hinted at a Moira rework last week in the experimental cards, which the community responded to with predictable level-headedness. For those who did not see the news, her changes include reworks to her damage orb and granting her team a 1-second fade as her own fade ability is ending. Our own aim god was excited to hear about these changes, quoted as saying, "Please don't make me play Moira. Please, God, please, I can't do it anymore." Jeff Kaplan himself spoke up to assure the community that any changes, should they go live, would be properly balanced, and I think that level of communication is probably what the community needs going forward on these changes. On the other end of the buff nerf spectrum, Genji nerfs are on the horizon for the Overwatch League. After a dominant pick rate in the league this month, with most teams choosing Genji about 70% of the time, and our own Tuba probably pushing 95%, we'll have to see if these changes take Genji out of viability as we near the end of season playoffs. On the topic of nerfs, Decay was released from the Dallas Fuel this week, and the Justice will be playing the Fuel in their first matchup of the Countdown Cup. Let's take a look at what this means for us in coming up with the Justice. Dallas is entering our matchup with 2 wins and 2 losses since the last tournament. Their wins did come in the hero ban period over relatively weaker opponents in Houston and Boston, and their losses came in the unbanned period, which is what we'll see in the Countdown Cup, against Atlanta and Philly. The Justice are 1-3 with a victory over Houston and losses to Florida, Paris, and Toronto. Washington looks strong in a meta that has arisen without hero bans, stealing a map from Paris to end their win streak and looking dominant over Houston. Both Dallas and Washington have been playing fairly tight 6-player squads with minimal substitutions, which might mean less compositional diversity over the course of our match. Personally, I'll be keeping a close eye on Onigod, who has shown great improvement every week since joining the Overwatch League, as well as the battle of the support duos with our own Aim God and Arc facing off against Crimzo and Paintbrush. On paper, these teams are playing similar compositions, sporting similar stats, and I expect this to be one of the most competitive games in the first round of the Countdown Cup. Regardless of how our team does this weekend, our team is only as good as our fans. So this episode wouldn't be complete without a highlight of how our fans are connecting with the team. Except we're just starting. So this is where we'll take time in future episodes to watch community-submitted highlights, rate your Justice memes, and answer questions from the team. Head over to our Discord, our link is in the description, and go to the preview room to submit videos, memes, and questions for next week. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with. Looking back at our match from last week against the Paris Eternal, the Justice started strong. After struggling all season with control maps, the Justice made this the focus of last week's practice and took Oasis off of the Eternal. With 97% of the point captured but Paris in control, we enter last fight territory down ultimates and players. Stitch manages to get a key pickoff on a weak Ben Best and survives long enough to trigger overtime. He even forces EMP out from Soon. Meanwhile, Roar and Tuba have swapped to high stall, high variance characters and begin to stall the clock without dying to keep us in it. Arc gets a huge touch here, helping us avoid the C9 and keep overtime going, and gives Janu enough time to come back with our key ultimate. Janu grabs most of the team and puts us in a great spot to win. During Janu's ult, Aim God focuses in on Sparkle, knowing his deflect will not be able to stop Moira's damage. Tuba gets a huge kill here, hitting a fadeaway shot while hacked on the Ana, taking Fielder out of the fight. Hanbin gets his grab off there, but without an anti-nade or Sparkle to follow up, it's down to cleanup and some fancy ball attack and predictions from Roar here to secure the win. The day I took over as GM, the team agreed that if we were going to turn this team around, it wasn't going to be on the back of individual performances, but on team-led efforts. And our last fight on Oasis shows just how far the Justice have come. It's fights like this that give me hope for the future of our team. It's an extremely well-coordinated, selfless play that came up when it mattered against a top competitor. And it shows our ability to clutch up when needed, which is the exact improvement I'm looking for on this team. We'll end today's video on a segment digging into some interesting statistics from the last 2 weeks. I spent a lot of time pulling stats for our upcoming match between us and Dallas, and time again, the matchup across roles, maps, team fights are all extremely close. So the stats I'm going to focus on this week is looking at first deaths and team fight win rates over those last 2 weeks of OWL play that will mirror the compositions we'll see this weekend. The Justice and Dallas both struggled compared to the league averages in these statistics. Dallas has done slightly better at avoiding first deaths than the Justice, but both teams are only able to convert a first death into a one team fight at around a 10 to 12% rate. Some of you might remember in an interview last season with Krusty talking about why he was choosing to start Rascal. He mentioned that they disproportionately were able to bring back lost team fights when Rascal was in the lineup. I think this is going to be the key indicator in our matchup against the Fuel this weekend. Keep a close eye out for which team is able to pull out a win when they're down a team member. The current meta has enough variance for teams to clutch up in 5v6, and I think the team that does this better this weekend will probably walk away with the win. Thanks for joining us on the Justice Preview this week. Stay tuned for future episodes where we'll dive more into the behind-the-scenes side of the Justice. And remember to submit your highlights, memes, and questions to the Justice Discord preview channel. We'll see you this weekend on the stage, Justice fighting, and see you next time.